Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Albaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Albaugh.
Good morning across the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. I'm Todd Albaugh. It is Friday, TGIF, for April 14th, 2023. Todd Albaugh, along with producer and engineer, Mr. Aaron Zommers. Always great to have Brady, just like Kira Sabin. Always one of those people that just make me feel better after we've had a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I always look forward to having both of them on.
Yeah, always good insight from the both. And what I love about Brady, I mean, well, there's a lot of things. Number one, he's just a great guy, great dad, great husband, great community person. But, he tells it like it is. And he's not afraid to share things kind of from behind the scene. He gives you those things that you don't always see on the news or hear on the radio or read in the paper from a player perspective, which I think is pretty cool.
It's also easy to forget how young he is.
Yes.
Just because people either are let go or retire from playing in the NFL so early.
Right. Yeah, in his case, I mean, I'm sure he could have had a longer career if he had wanted in the NFL had it not been for these kind of freak injuries. Like we talked about before the program, he went through his entire kind of high school and college career with relatively few injuries unscathed. Barely missed a game. And then got into the NFL, and it was three season ending injuries right in a row, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, it's wild how these things happen sometimes.
Yeah,
very unfortunate.
It is. But he's doing okay. I mean, I think he had just enough that he was able to achieve a dream. I mean, how many people can say they played a professional sport?
Very few, that's for sure.
A relatively very, very fractionally small number. So to come from a place like he and I do of Richland Center and be able to say that he made it to the league, to the NFL, and played there for 3 seasons and was part of that environment and achieved that. It's a remarkable testament to he and his family, and because I know that he credits his family with a lot of the support to get there. But not just a credit to him and his family, but to the work, the drive that he personally put in to achieve that dream. I mean, he didn't wake up one day at Richland Center and say, I'm going to go play in the NFL. I mean, he worked his rear end off for it. Walk on at UW-Madison, and then ended up being a starter on a scholarship his last year, captain of the team his last year alongside Russell Wilson. So it says something about the person of Brady that he was able to achieve all those things. And after all of that, still just a heck of a nice guy. Just a genuine person. Very,
very positive, but willing to talk about the negative things to work through them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that he enjoys doing, is just being an inspiration for others and helping to encourage others. So we'll look forward to having Brady back on the show coming up here in 2 weeks from today on another Friday. Weather forecast for today across the state of Wisconsin at 9 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. First of all, speaking of the RC, Richland Center, news from the center. Today, mostly sunny. A high of 79 degrees. Absolutely fantastic. Get out and enjoy it. One last day here before the weather changes back to actual spring weather. For tonight, in the RC, partly cloudy, a low of 58 degrees. Then for tomorrow, Saturday, a chance for rain in the morning, increasing in the afternoon, and boy, do we need it. Dry conditions, 76 degrees for a high tomorrow. Then for tomorrow night, showers, perhaps a thunderstorm in Richland Center, a low of 45. And Sunday, a 90% chance of rain. It'll be blustery and breezy, a high of only 52 degrees. Up in Wausau, WXCO, Bull Falls Radio Land. Remember, a flood warning still in effect along the the Wisconsin River and the backwaters thereof in the Wausau area, so be aware of that. Otherwise, sunny skies today, a high near 81 degrees. For tonight, mostly cloudy, a low of 55. Tomorrow, Saturday, nice in the morning, and then 80% chance of a shower in the afternoon, a high of 77. Saturday night, rain and thunderstorms, low of 47. And Sunday in the Wausau area, 90% chance of rain and a high of 52. Over at Amory, WLAK, Lake Air Radioland. Sunny skies for today, a high of 78 degrees. For tonight, 40% chance of thunderstorms, a low of 48. Saturday, tomorrow, 80% chance of rain in Amory, a high of 57. Saturday night, 80% chance of rain continues, a low of 33. And Sunday, everything, everywhere, all at once. Rain, snow, breezy conditions, maybe a half an inch of accumulation possible, a high of 37 degrees in Amory. Just remember, this time of the year, it won't last long. In fact, could be melted by noon the next day. You never know. So don't get too down when we see the snow flurries coming down in early to mid-April. It is now 11 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Here are some news headlines for you, what you need to know on this Friday, the 14th of April 2023. A 21-year-old Air Force Guardsman is being held in connection with the leaking of classified Pentagon documents that were posted online, according to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. Yesterday, the FBI said in a statement that it took the suspect into custody, quote, at a residence in North Dingham, Massachusetts, for his alleged involvement in leaking classified U.S. government and military documents, unquote. The leaked material posted on to social media included detailed intelligence assessments of allies and adversaries alike, including on the state of the war in Ukraine and the challenges Kyiv and Moscow face as the conflict appears at a stalemate. Multiple U.S. officials are telling the press that the suspect is believed to be the leader of an online group where a trove of classified documents had been posted. Back with more after this, including your phone calls. This is the Todd Albaugh Show, and this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
There's a war coming down between my breast and mine. I don't want no war going down tonight. Stop this! Stop this!
Welcome back to the Civic Media Radio Network. It is 15 past the hour of 9 o'clock on a Friday. Mr. Sommers, what was that little tune there you dialed up?
That was Unity by Operation Ivy.
Operation Ivy.
An old punk band that I really like.
Really? All right. Never heard of it. If you go to Operation Ivy concerts, do you have to put on calamine lotion?
I wouldn't know. They definitely do not do concerts anymore.
Because you do that, you use calamine lotion for poison ivy.
Right.
So I just wondered. Aaron didn't think that was particularly funny.
No, I did. It's just, it takes...
I always can tell when Aaron enjoys something or not. And that one he was just like, oh, God, let's move on.
Oh, no, I still do. I enjoy it. I just, for example, at an open mic night, the one that I played at, there was also a comedian, and he was telling jokes, and I would be like nodding and smiling rather than laughing, just because that's the kind of person I am.
You're just taking it in, just absorbing it. Yeah.
And he'd be like, good, we got some nods here. Every time you nod, I get a little bit more powerful. And I was like, yeah, and I nodded in response.
I like that. I like that a lot. Question this hour we're going to ask you is, how do you feel about legislators saying one thing and talking behind closed doors about another? The hypocrisy issue. Because we're going to play this in a little while. There's new footage or new audio being leaked from the Tennessee legislature, posted by Heather Cox Richardson, an author, reporter that we frequently refer to here on this show. And I'm not sure, it must have been on a cell phone or something, but somebody recorded the caucus, the Republican House caucus in Tennessee, after the vote to expel these two black members of the Tennessee House and then saved the one white member. And this is fascinating audio. And maybe it's just me because I was in that environment for so long, and I just find things that, because I've been in so many of those kind of meetings, where you hear a legislator or legislators say one thing behind closed doors and they go out and say something completely different to the media. Rarely gets caught on tape, or now in this world on digital. But we have this leaked audio we're going to play for you. So how do you feel? How does that make you feel? It doesn't matter what party. When you hear legislators saying these certain things behind closed doors, then it gets exposed. How does that make you feel about a legislator about government as a whole. 715-388-7155. Again, area code 715-388-7155. How do you feel when legislators are caught on tape saying one thing and then doing another? 715-388-7155. One more time for those of you that said, I don't have a pen or a paper or my phone. Have you got it now? Great. 715-388-7155. Finish up on a couple of these top headlines for the day. Fort Lauderdale, Florida, experiencing the rainiest day in its history on Wednesday, according to officials, calling it a 1 in 1,000 year rainfall event. The downpour prompted emergency rescues, forced drivers to abandon cars and close schools and shut down the airport. Preliminary reports indicate the region recorded widespread rainfall totals of more than a foot, while Fort Lauderdale tallied about 26 inches in a 24-hour period. According to the National Weather Service, hundreds of Floridians were housed in emergency shelters in Fort Lauderdale late Thursday as crews raced to clear clogged storm drains and impassable roads. More storms could strike Florida today, and some flood warnings are remaining in effect for at least through this morning. The family of the gunman who was killed after he fatally shot 5 people Monday at the Old National Bank in Louisville, Kentucky, plans to have his brain tested for CTE. His father told CNN on Thursday, CTE, a neurodegenerative brain disease that can be found in people who have been exposed to repeated head trauma. The family thinks he had 3 significant concussions during his time playing sports in middle school and high school, his father said. The testing disclosure comes as police try to uncover a motive in the mass shooting, and as more families hold vigils honoring their loved ones who were killed. Back to Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a bill that would ban most abortions in the state after 6 weeks. According to the governor's office, the law would make Florida one of the most restrictive states in the country to obtain an abortion and follows moves by other Republican-led states to curb the procedure after the Supreme Court ruled Roe v. Wade last summer, overturned Roe v. Wade last summer, that is. Opponents of the legislation are slamming the move, arguing that 6 weeks is before many women know they're even pregnant. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is set to take emergency disputes over medication abortion drugs to the Supreme Court. Attorney General Merrick Garland said yesterday this comes after a federal court on Wednesday that an abortion drug can remain available, but placed restrictions on mailing the pill. And in Ukraine, as Ukrainian officials prepare for Orthodox Easter this Sunday, authorities in the region are bolstering security measures ahead of possible Russian attacks over the holiday weekend. Residents are being discouraged from attending church services late at night for the next few days, and many cemeteries will remain closed due to the danger of unexploded mines and Russian shelling. Eastern Orthodox Christians celebrate Palm Sunday and Easter 1 week after many Christians in the U.S. and other Western countries observe the holiday. Ukrainian officials have warned in the past that Russian strikes may increase around specific dates and holidays. Law enforcement officials in Ukraine said police will use special monitoring centers to look out for any signs of attacks. I mean, you can't even take a holiday like Easter off. I just, won't go down the whole war issue right now, but our thoughts and prayers are good vibes sending to all those people in Ukraine and to each and every one of you who may be celebrating Orthodox Easter this weekend. Want to change over to this story now that I kind of touched on at the beginning or so of this hour. Back down in Tennessee, and we talked about this earlier this week, and for those of you who might not have heard or been listening, here's the situation. We had these shootings in Nashville, Tennessee a couple weeks ago. Five individuals killed. I'm sorry, see, we have so many shootings now I lose track of it. The one in Nashville was at the Christian school. 3 kids, 3 9-year-old kids got killed, 3 adults, among them the principal of the school. And it was revealed, of course, afterwards that some of the school officials were licensed and were packing heat. They were packing a gun. And even school officials having a gun couldn't stop this individual with, I believe it was another AR-15 rifle that killed these 6 individuals. It was only the fine work of the police department in Nashville that rushed in towards the shots. Their training kicked in, and they took down the gunman. Of course, here in Wisconsin, the response to that has been legislation proposed by Republicans to allow teachers and support staff in schools in Wisconsin to legally carry loaded firearms. Governor Tony Evers has said it's ridiculous. I agree. He says he'll veto it if it comes to his desk. But back down to Tennessee. The outrage after this by Tennesseans, because Republicans who are in control of the legislature there, like here in Wisconsin, refused to do anything meaningful on gun reform. And guess who they ticked off? A lot of Tennesseans, but in particular, once again, the young people, Generation Z, the 18 to 29-year-olds, who have said we're tired of our generation being targeted. We're tired of growing up in a school where instead of doing tornado and fire drills, now we're also doing active shooter drills. We're tired of living this and not having, quote unquote, adults do anything about it or even listen to us. So 2 of the youngest members of the Tennessee legislature, joined by another member, the 2 youngest members are black. The woman is white. All 3 Democrats, and they were trying to get their voices heard on the floor of the Tennessee House. And the Republicans weren't calling on them, weren't letting them have their say as duly elected representatives of the people. And so they said, we're going to make sure that our constituents are heard. So they went to the floor. It's called the well because that's, in parliamentary parlance, it's basically the podium where you speak from in certain bodies. They went to the well of the House in Tennessee, stood at the podium, and the Republicans refused to turn their microphones on. So they brought a bullhorn with them to the floor. And they simply started speaking the truth. Simply saying, this is what we have to do. We have to address this issue of gun violence. We have to do something meaningful in Tennessee. Now, was it a violation of House rules in Tennessee? Yeah, absolutely. Be a violation of Senate or Assembly rules here in Wisconsin. And do you have to have some form of order in order to have meaningful dialogue and conversations? Yes, of course. But you also have to allow duly elected members to speak. Can't just ignore them. And so these people, these 3 representatives, were simply trying to represent their folks back home. So the first step was the Tennessee legislature, Republicans, stripped them of their committee assignments. No longer on any committees. But that wasn't good enough for them. They moved to expel them, which is different from impeaching someone. If you impeach a member, you have to have impeachment proceedings in the lower body, and then there's an actual trial in the Senate, the upper house. It usually takes a 2/3 vote to convict someone who's been impeached. But they didn't even go through the process of a trial or impeachment. They moved right to expulsion, expelling. In other words, we're going to get this done in a day. The charges are so egregious that we can't even wait for an impeachment hearing. We have to expel you today. And remember what they did. Can't even say accused because it was on camera. They simply broke a rule of the House of Tennessee. It was not illegal. It was not a criminal act. It was not a misdemeanor. Simply a rule of the House. And for that, they had expulsion brought up. And there were all kinds of examples given during this expulsion speech of other members of the Tennessee House of Representatives who actually had done criminal things, did face expulsion. The 2 black members were expelled. The white member got to stay. What was said behind closed doors in Tennessee? We'll play the audio for you after this. This is the Todd Allball Show, and this is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Back about 18 and 25, I left Tennessee very much alive. I never would have made it through the Arkansas mud if I hadn't been riding on a Tennessee stud.
Little Johnny Cash for you on a Friday, 9:33 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Todd Allball along with Mr. Aaron Zommers, our producer and engineer. Never go wrong with Johnny Cash. I mean,
Ain't that the truth?
I don't think the man ever did a bad song.
I don't think so. I think there are less excellent.
Right. I think that's fair. That's a good way to put it. But no bad ones. So, very good. Welcome back to the show. Asking the question this hour, how does it make you feel when you find out that a legislator or legislators, elected officials, say one thing and do another? That they put up a front in one way and then behind closed doors talk another. 715-388-7155. Again, area code 715-388-7155. I think it's an important issue because, again, I've witnessed this here in Wisconsin over my 25, 30 years in Wisconsin politics. Won't go into it in detail again right now, but, I said that, 2011 witnessed Senate Republican caucus behind closed doors actively talking about the benefits of passing legislation to suppress the vote in Wisconsin, and specifically called out minority folks in Milwaukee, college kids, and quite frankly, the elderly. So, I mean, that to me, when I heard that with my own ears, saw it with my own eyes, that Republican elected officials were actively talking about, hey, if we pass this legislation, think what it's going to mean for places like Milwaukee and our college campuses. And also, as I said, senior citizens in places like Madison and Milwaukee that tend to vote more Democratic. That was it for me. It was a bridge too far. That's just one example. There are things that aren't quite so egregious that I can tell you happen behind closed doors as well. Some of these people, and some of them aren't there anymore. Some of them have moved on to Congress. But some of these people that go around touting their religion, their faith, quoting scripture out of the Bible, pointing themselves off as the perfect Christian, they swear like sailors behind closed doors. Say some of the most unchristian things you can imagine. Scott Walker is a prime example. Not a swearer, but completely has no regard for human life or for the welfare of people that he represents. Huge difference between a guy like Tommy Thompson and Scott Walker.
I think Scott Walker's contempt for anyone who is not himself or willing to give him money is very thinly veiled. Like, he outright says, like, oh yeah, we won and stuff like that.
Right. No, he is a very thin-skinned guy and not a deep intellectual guy. Tommy Thompson could see all sides of a problem. And the reason I keep going back to Tommy Thompson is because he's the last, Republican governor we had. Well, you can count Scott McCallum. Scott McCallum was kind of like James K. Polk. You don't really count him in the presidential lineup. Scott McCallum, you don't really count him in the gubernatorial lineup. But Tommy Thompson was a Republican, 4-time elected governor. And whether you agreed with him or not on the policy stuff, what he said behind closed doors was the same stuff that he would say in front of the cameras. He really cared about people. He really was passionate about Wisconsin. He would make that clear in meetings. Hey, we got to help these people. Hey, we got to do this. Where with Scott Walker, we'd hear him, quote scripture and talk about praying for people. And behind closed doors, you'd just be like, we're not doing that. But Governor, what about these people that need it? That's not my problem. Just cold. A cold dude. Very unchristian-like.
It is your problem. It explicitly is the only thing that is your problem, is how the people of your state are doing.
Right. This came up with Act 10 when he was told how people could be affected by this. Came up during the mining issue, talking about how the environment. I mean, again, Tommy Thompson. Not going to say he had a 100% clean record and everything. But especially towards his latter 2 terms in office, did a lot. And conservation. Signed into law the Lower Wisconsin Riverway, preserving miles and miles of natural land along the Wisconsin River. Talked about mining during the Scott Walker era. It's all about jobs. We have a job problem. We have to look at jobs. Didn't care about the environment. Didn't care about Native American rights, their faith, their heritage. A total disregard. I mean, it was actually like a microcosm of the white Christian conquerors. In total disregard for Native American religion and faith and practices. The rice fields up by Mellon in northern Wisconsin, and people that are listening in Amory and Wausau, they're going to know what I'm talking about. Those rice fields have a religious meaning. It would be like saying, we're going to go mine Bethlehem. I'm not kidding. Scott Walker had no regard for the Native American faith in the state of Wisconsin. None. It was all about jobs. And by the way, let's check in. Let's add up all the jobs that the mining legislation has created in northern Wisconsin. I'll sound like Jethro Bodine. Naught plus naught equals naught. Look, 0. Didn't take long. 0 new jobs. Meanwhile, the legislation, the environmental laws in Wisconsin were torn apart. Anyway, but it all goes together. I'm going to say I digress. But how does that make you feel? And it's not just me. There are a lot of other people and reporters and things that will expose what legislators really say. How does that make you feel? 715-388-7155. Again, 715-388-7155.
I'll tell you how it makes young people feel. I can't speak for everybody, but I know I'm speaking for myself and most of my friends when this kind of stuff comes up. It feels hopeless.
Right.
Like, wow, these people are this much of every word you can't say on the radio, and they still got elected. And we see this clear as day that they care about nobody except for their wallet. Mm-hmm. And they're still in office, and they're not getting out anytime soon. I just want to give up and not pay attention to politics and suffer however we suffer. That's the mindset it creates. And it took such extreme things like the Dobbs decision and other related stuff and all the shootings to really galvanize people.
But I think it's a great point, Aaron. Do you think now that we've seen some results in the elections, such as for Tony Evers and now for Janet Protasewicz, and even for Joe Biden, when Gen Z, when young people do get out and vote, now that you see results, do you think that motivates your generation more?
I think the tide is turning, yeah.
And because I think, to me, I've said this before, that's what gives me hope, is your generation. The fact that you are getting out and voting, the fact that it has made a difference, that gives me hope. So I hope that it gives your generation and the rest of Gen Zers hope as well. Just seeing the results, the power.
Yeah, I think it is.
So back to this thing in Tennessee. So you have these Tennessee House Republicans who threw out expelled the 2 black members for violating a House rule, saved the white member, And, of course, they said, well, this has nothing to do with racism. It's just the way they kind of played this off very calmly. It was not calm behind closed doors. So the Tennessee Holler, which, again, is a great publication, a great name for a publication, right? The Tennessee Holler. Because, down in Tennessee, like we call, Walnut Hollow, a hollow. But down in Tennessee, they call it a holler. Geographical point, a holler. It could also mean like holler the news, right? I think it's a great name for a publication. The Tennessee Holler obtained leaked audio from the Tennessee House Republicans infighting over what was become known as the Tennessee Three, the 2 black and 1 white elected officials in Tennessee. And so you got several members here talking, being led, I believe, by the House Speaker, Kopitsky. And this is the conversation. And all these guys that are talking, by the way, are white, all right? So this is the House Republican caucus behind closed doors. And it's about a 10-minute thing. We're not going to listen to the entire thing. But I want to let you listen to at least part of it here to get a sense of what we're talking about. Go ahead, Mr. Zommers.
Please forgive me if my comments are not going to office Christ-like. I think now, more than ever, everyone should recognize that Democrats are not our friends. I listened for the last 3 days to Democrats, Sam McKenzie, Chisholm, Parkinson, trash us as racist. I've never had anybody call me a racist. And for the last 3 days, all I have heard from them is how this is the most racist place. One of these white supremacists. Good Lord, we have to realize they are not our friends. They can smile, man, that doesn't mean I can't be polite to them, but they are not our friends. They destroy the Republic and the foundation of who we are, or we preserve it. That is the reality where we are right now. And if these last 3 days have not proven that, you need to find a new job. There's never been a more important time for us to be unified. There's 75 of us. Let them call the names they're going to call. And we need to move forward. We need to pass the gun bill. We need to pass the pronoun bill, wherever Mark is. Man, we do not slow down because of their crap. We can't.
All right, stop it there for a second, Mr. Summers. So thank you very much. So we'll pick up in a second. Couple of things. Republicans leadership in the House in Tennessee saying, quote, Democrats are not our friends. They call us racists. Well, if the glove fits, you kicked out the 2 black dudes, but not the white chick. I mean, come on. Who are you fooling? Of course it's racism. The guy says, we can smile at them, but they are not our friends. Talking to the Democrats. Saying then there are 75 of us. 75 Republicans. Supermajority in Tennessee. And then saying, we have to move on. And what are they going to move on? Pass a gun bill. And let me tell you, it's not a gun safety bill. Making guns more prolific in Tennessee. And also pass a pronoun bill. Trying to outlaw the use of pronouns, just like they did in, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders did in Arkansas.
Which makes no sense.
Right, these are the priorities. There was just a mass shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. There have been protests of young people taking over the Capitol, not in a militant way, not doing damage, simply sit-ins, like what happened during Act 10. People just showing up saying, we're not going to take this anymore. An outpouring of criticism. And do the Tennessee Republican legislators listen to this? No, they want to pass a bill to outlaw the use of pronouns in Tennessee. Let's pick it up, Mr. Zommers.
We move forward with some sort of unity is to call out what happened on the House floor the other night. Yes, sir. I feel like we were hung out to dry by a couple of members. And Jody, I'm just going to say it here because you signed the letter. You straight up came to me and said you were 100% where I was. And you went on the House floor and you did the opposite. Man, you hung us out to dry. And I like you personally. This is not personal. And if Brian Terry was here, I'd say the same thing to him. This would have been bad anyway, but good God, we brought the racism into it because you didn't stay with us. But I need to know, and I don't want to hear why there wasn't a preponderance of evidence or an attorney. I need to know why you flipped your vote at the last minute. You didn't let them know beforehand. Giving Johnny a 15-minute heads up doesn't cut it. And if Brian Terry was here, I want to hear from him too. I have to know.
Listen to that. Stop there for a second. Thank you. Stop there for a second. Saying there. So here's what happened. There were two Republican members, who had the courage to not throw out the one white person. I'm not sure how much courage that is. But they're mad because they were, quote, hung out to dry. We're going to pick more of this up after the break. This is the Todd Albaugh Show. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
He had the nerve and he had the blood. There never was a horse like the Tennessee stud.
Show is now at 9:50 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Glad to have you along with us. Mr. Aaron Zomber is our producer and engineer in this hour. Asking you, how do you feel when you hear a legislator or elected official say one thing and do another behind closed doors, and then they're exposed? How does that make you feel? 715-388-7155. Again, area code 715-388-7155. We'd love to hear from you this morning. Specifically talking about this issue in Tennessee, where after the mass shooting killing 3 9-year-old children, 3 adults, that there was a debate, or attempted to be a debate, on the House floor of the Tennessee legislature. 3 members were not allowed to speak. And so they took a bullhorn down to the floor of the House and said their piece. That's a violation of House rules in Tennessee. It is not a criminal act. It's not a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. And so they were first stripped of their committees and then voted to be expelled from the body.
Should also be a violation to not allow people to talk during a debate.
You would think so. And so 2 of these people, 2 young black men who are representatives, were expelled. By 2 votes, the white woman, the Democrat, was saved and was not expelled. By the way, the 2 members that were expelled are already back as interim members, sent back by their local municipalities, and are now eligible to run for their seats again. But we're talking about this leaked audio now from the Tennessee Holler newspaper in Tennessee, retweeted by Heather Cox Richardson. She says, this is truly an astonishing recording. It feels like what we imagined discussions were like among lawmakers in the Reconstruction and Jim Crow South. And they are completely oblivious to that, meaning these lawmakers, still imagining they're the good guys. And I think that's true. So we're going to pick it up in just a second, but again, to recap where we're at right now, this is apparently the speaker of the Tennessee Republicans in the House Republicans, going after his members and saying, look, we were hung out to dry by a couple of members, meaning the 2 members that ended up saving the white woman. And he says, I don't care about the preponderance of evidence or attorneys, unquote. That's what he said. Doesn't care about the preponderance of evidence. And I've said this before here in Wisconsin. The Republican Party, whether it's in the Assembly or the Senate, they will ask members and they will ask staff. You're on the team, right? You're on the team. My old boss, former boss, Dale Schultz, got that all the time. So did I, as his chief of staff. You're on the team, right? Never forget when Reince Priebus was chair of the National Republican Party. It's either during mining or Act 10. I think it was during mining. And he called up, and I answered, and Reince says, oh, come on, Dale's still on the team, right? I mean, he's still a Republican, right? I mean, Dale's on the team. I love doing my Reince Priebus impersonation. Another guy who's just a dweeb. Anyway, that's the question that always gets asked on the Republican side. It doesn't matter what the law says. It doesn't matter what's actually right. All they want to know is, are you on the team? Are you a lockstep, rubber stamp vote for what we want? And here, now on audio tape, we hear it for ourselves. You hung us out to dry. And so he's going after these two members, one who is in the room, the other one apparently who is not. Let's pick up the audio from the Tennessee House Republican Conference.
We're going to kick the staff out. This is the place to say it. I haven't lied to anybody, not one time. And it pisses me off to suggest that I have. And some of my friends in here suggested that I lied. And that's bullcrap. I walked into that room to vote to expel all three of them, just like all the others. And the letter that I sent to the speaker, it says exactly what it says. Throw the book at it. Everything you've got. It doesn't say expulsion. It's not in there. But it doesn't matter. I was ready. I was ready. I was walked into that room ready to vote before we ever started on Jones. I got a list of questions from Johnny Garrett. Johnny says, you're on the list that the speaker has to ask questions. Sat there through Jones, made notes. I went to Johnny and said, Johnny, can I go off script? Johnny says, yeah, go for it. Speaker never called him. We voted. I hit the green vote because that's what I'm there for. Then we get into and immediately the questions start coming up about the resolution. I know what she did. I know what she did, broke the rules. And I know that she deserves to be expelled. We got to do it right. And that wasn't right. While this is going on, Leader came to my desk. He said, hey, you think we're doing good? I said, no. We haven't established the case. Gino's had 2 cracks at her, and the only thing he's established is that she slid at the well. That's it. Didn't fix any of the problems with the resolution. He didn't establish that she'd been here 10 years or 12 years and knew the book better than others did. Why were we still in session? Because we're in between bills. Why did you get gavelled out of order? Because the speaker had to get order. It was disorderly conduct and caused chaos in this whole place. That line of questioning is exactly what I told the leader I needed to ask, because we don't have it right now. He didn't sit there and say, you need to vote yes anyway. He didn't whip my vote. He walked off. He didn't go to the speaker and tell the speaker to call on me. So if you're all going to come all at me and single me out, and only 3 of y'all called me this weekend to check on me, I'm going to defend myself. I told leadership what was going on. I told them I had problems. I had questions. I had a plan to fix it. When the question got called, I went to Johnny. I said, John, do we have the votes? He said, well, nobody else changes their vote. We should be fine. Why are you not going to vote yes? And I explained it. And I went back to my desk. I sat there and had my internal debate on what to do. Then the bell rings. I'm concerned that I'm going to vote yes on a resolution that I know is wrong. We didn't establish that she did all that other stuff. All we established is she walked from there to there. As much as I hate to give John Ray any credit for anything, the smartest thing he said the whole season I've been up here. Darren Jernigan in the back of the room says, we can't vote on a resolution that's poorly drafted. And he's right. Ignore that we were screwing it up and put my name on something that I knew that was going to be in the annals of history as being wrong. No different than some Democrat is going to be on a jury for Donald Trump and vote to convict him even though they know that vote is indictment. His resolutions got copied and pasted. All they changed was the names. She didn't do the things that were in the resolution.
That's no break, Mr. Speaker. Have you on the list?
So let's stop it there for a second, Mr. Somers. So there was one of the guys, one of the members of the Republican House that voted, one of the 2 members that voted to save the white woman representative. And he was laying out, I got to give him credit, he's laying out very well saying, look, I didn't vote for expulsion of the woman because all she did was stand at the well. In other words, she didn't speak like the 2 black members did. Now, I don't think that any of them should have been expelled. But he's laying out the case and saying, look, we don't have enough proof, we don't have enough facts to expel this member. He's standing up to 73 other members in his caucus. And they still don't want to hear it. We'll pick up more of this audio next hour. Stay with us, hour number 3 in your phone calls. This is the Town Hall Ball Show, and this is the Civic Media Radio Network.